1950, 5:15 p.m. The last day of the term, 13 degrees in the middle of winter. Icy, impassable conditions. The worst circumstances for an emergency, and yet, fire crews, students, and the Big Rapids community rushed to the scene of a fire that was starting in Ferris's old main building.
When I first heard the alarm and then looked to see what was going on, there was a little bit of flame that was coming out of the roof.
There was snow all over the ground. They couldn't get the water pressure out of the fire hoses. So even though there initially started out to be one concentrated fire, then it was a really big fire, and then the fire caught fire to the pharmacy building.
By that time, most of the roof was on fire. You never seen anything like that.
Particularly in the case of the pharmacy building, they didn't know what was going to catch on fire. They had a lot of chemicals up there.
The blistering cold and age of the buildings added to the difficulty of quelling the blaze.
My mother was a telephone operator, and she ran over there in her pajamas and started, answering all the phone calls because it was just devastating.
73 years later, the cause of the fire is still a mystery, but speculations flew around. Fingers pointed towards students and equipment.
Someone said it was a Bunsen burner that was left on. It could have been someone smoking in the basement area where the bathrooms were.
There was a lot of emotion. In this case, a lot of people, if they weren't actually fighting the fire, had connection with Ferris because they'd probably attended.
People were evacuated from the blistering buildings, and educational equipment was rescued from the snowy ruins.
That's the equipment that the students were literally throwing out the window down to someone who caught it so they'd have something to use for their next class, wherever they were going to be, even though the building was gone. They did have a whole bunch of people there who came running out, and they didn't really have trampolines, but they would use tarps and they would catch people.
Ferris president Byron Brophy led the evacuation of Old Main. Witnesses report that Brophy even used his own prosthetic leg to break down doors and to help rescue those trapped inside.
And Brophy was pretty close to the last one out of the building.
From the time they had the alarm till what they considered they had the fire under control, it wasn't all that long. It was just a few hours.
The fire department brought the flames to a stalemate, but it smoldered during the night. Families, students, teachers were all heartbroken. The home of their education and vibrant community decimated. As the sun rose over campus, the remnants of Ferris Institute were reduced to the alumni building and a few small structures. And yet, hope remained.
There's this big pasteboard sign up front with chalk on it and says, "We will go on."
It was kind of the bulldog spirit, I guess you would call it.
Helen and Woodbridge Ferris's dream could not be extinguished.
And at the time, after the fire, there was a huge outpouring of support from alumni.
The vision of Michigan's 28th governor needed to be revitalized.
And they said, this is not in any way the end of Ferris, and that this came out, and the governor came and he goes, no, we are going to rebuild. We're going to help you.
Something that was such an incredibly horrific and tragic thing also served as a catalyst for us to say, how do we not only rebuild, how do we rebuild ourselves? Has what I call a phoenix effect, out of the ashes that you rise.